and the government of Sri Lanka, and brings together here in this room heritage experts, government representatives, and development partners. It showcases the global importance of the sacred city of Anuradhapura as an archaeological site with its associated living heritage, mobilizing, of course, international cooperation. Without further ado, allow me to invite you, Mrs. Audrey Azoulay, Director General of UNESCO, to the stage for your opening remarks.
Your Excellency, Madam Prime Minister of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, Arini Amarasuriya, Honorable Minister of Buddhasasana, Religious and Cultural Affairs, Induma Sunil Senevi, Venerable Mahasangha, religious dignitaries, welcome to UNESCO, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. First, I'd like to tell you how much it's a pleasure and an honor to have with us for this conference the Prime Minister. I welcome her very much, I think for the first time, in UNESCO's headquarters, and tell her in the name of UNESCO, of our member states, of the Secretariat, how welcome you are. Last July, I was fortunate enough to explore the streets of the sacred city of Anuradhapura alongside Professor Gamini Ranasiniya, Director General of the Central Cultural Fund. And like all those that have had the same luck, I fell under the spell of Sri Lanka, of its history, of its marvels. We were together with the country, with the experts, with our office, committed to organizing this international conference in Paris for the safeguarding of this exceptional heritage. And I'm very honored to welcome you all here this morning. Visiting this city gave me an immediate understanding of why UNESCO inscribed it on World Heritage List in 1982. Through this inscription, our organization recognized the unique value of the city, a royal capital for over 1,000 years, from which emerged the great chronicle of Mahavamsa. Vahamsa, this royal epic, which also was inscribed in UNESCO's memory through our Memory of the World Register in 2023. But as the birthplace of Theravada Buddhism, Anuradhapura is also a spiritual hub, a place where one can admire the Runanweli Mahaseya, which houses a relic of the Buddha under its majestic white dome. A place where one can gaze upon the legendary Jayashri Mahabodhi, believed to be grown from a cutting from the tree of enlightenment, brought there 2,300 years ago by the Indian princess Sanghamita. Today, tourists and pilgrims alike flock to this sacred city to celebrate festivals, or Vesak, which we now, since last year, celebrate also at UNESCO. It's a very positive sign for the city, showing that its splendors, tucked away in dense jungles for centuries, has regained its fundamental role as a cultural and religious capital. Giving it back this role was UNESCO's objective when in 1980, under the leadership of one of my predecessors, the late Amadou Matar Mbow, it launched a vast campaign for the safeguarding of Sri Lanka's cultural triangle. This is an area housing no less than 5 of the 8 Sri Lankan sites inscribed on the World Heritage List, including Polonnaruwa, Kandy, and of course, Anuradhapura. In particular, we supported the renovation of the sacred city's impressive Jetavana and the Abhayagiri stupas, including by helping to train restoration specialists. Once overgrown with vegetation and weakened by torrential rains, these iconic temples were given new life through structural renovation using traditional techniques, brick and mortar techniques. And today, it's a pleasure, and it's with a great sense of history and continuity that we can see their monumental domes once again stand proudly among the vegetation. But of course, with Anuradhapura's renewed vitality comes new challenges, be it the economic development and urban expansion of the area or climate disruption. We must therefore take our action further, addressing essential elements such as, of course, monument restoration, but also, like always, water management, construction of tourism infrastructure, and safeguarding practices and knowledge related to the intangible heritage that are profoundly linked with the site. The tangible and the intangible cannot be dissociated. Our organization stands ready to work alongside the authorities, Madam Prime Minister, and all the partners and development agencies that have responded to our call today. This will require an approach combining international solidarity and, of course, the closest involvement of local communities, the first to be affected by these issues. And this is precisely the role of this conference, to provide a platform for discussions and exchanges between policymakers, heritage professionals, experts, but also local actors, spiritual communities. And so today, to begin a new chapter for Anuradhapura. And we construct this new chapter based on the extraordinary partnership that exists between Sri Lanka and UNESCO, a partnership we have been building for over 75 years. It's, of course, the protection of World Heritage sites, or the current assistance we are providing for restoration work in Sigiriya, extraordinary Sigiriya, Polonnaruwa, and the Dambulla Cave Temple. But it's also supporting transmission of traditional skills to preserve, for instance, the mural paintings, or the intangible heritage, again, which cannot be dissociated from these extraordinary places. And Madam Prime Minister, as you visit UNESCO today, of course, we also know Sri Lanka is an active member of our organization, joined the executive board as early as 1968, and today remains a very active member. We cooperate in many areas, not only in culture. We have worked together following the 2004 disaster, helping implement the first tsunami early warning system in the region, a precursor to what became UNESCO's Tsunami Ready program, which developed from that. And I'm very happy with the Prime Minister that we will take this cooperation further, including in the protection of cultural diversity. At a time of questioning, interrogation, fragmentation about international cooperation, we have clear proof of what can be done through international cooperation and what can be done further together. So for all these reasons, Madam Prime Minister, welcome to UNESCO. Dear participant to this conference, welcome to UNESCO. And let us ensure that Anuradhapura continues to be, and I will conclude with these words, in the words of the Sri Lankan archaeologist Roland Silva, describing World Heritage Sites, a modern wonder of the world. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Director General, for your inspiring opening remarks. I now have the honor to invite Her Excellency Dr. Harini Amarasuriya, Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, to deliver her remarks. Your Excellency.
Venerable Mahasangha, religious dignitaries, Madam Director General, Minister of Buddha Sasana, Religious and Cultural Affairs of Sri Lanka, Madam President of the General Conference, Madam Chairperson of the Executive Board, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is a profound honor to address you today in this significant institution, which stands as a beacon of knowledge, culture, and peace among nations and peoples of the world. I also consider it a special privilege to have this opportunity to visit UNESCO when Sri Lanka is celebrating the 75th anniversary of its partnership with this global body. May I also take this opportunity to convey Sri Lanka's deep condolences to the government and people of Myanmar and Thailand, and express our solidarity during this time of grief in the spirit of our long-standing friendship. Sri Lanka's 75th anniversary of its partnership with UNESCO is historic, and we celebrated last July with a very productive visit to Sri Lanka by the Director General, Madam Audrey Azoulay, and is culminating today in Paris with the convening of this expert conference on Anuradhapura, one of the most revered heritage sites and cultural treasures in the world. This conference also provides us with a unique opportunity to reflect upon aspects of Sri Lanka's long-standing collaboration with UNESCO, a partnership that has reinforced and enriched our shared vision of advancing intercultural dialogue, heritage conservation, education, sustainable development, and technological progress. At the outset, I extend my deep appreciation to the Director General, Madam Azoulay, for her steadfast support of Sri Lanka and for her vision and leadership in organizing this international expert conference. This timely initiative, gathering the world's experts on Anuradhapura and on heritage conservation, provides a critical platform for dialogue, knowledge sharing, technical collaboration, and resource mobilization, thus reinforcing our collective responsibility to protect and sustain this invaluable cultural legacy for future generations. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the shifting geopolitical landscape of the world today is formidable, shaped by the intersection of multiple forces, including the rise of multipolarity, economic realignments, and technological advancements. These dynamics have led to more complex diplomatic interactions and strategic recalibrations. In this backdrop, UNESCO's role as a global leader is more relevant than ever in negotiating the contours of such challenges, as well as in locating the organization firmly at the forefront of global discourses, be they education, ethics of AI, environmental sustainability, cultural preservation, or press freedom. In this context, we commend UNESCO for its contribution to advancing current discussions on global education reform, a project that is very close to my own heart, in garnering unprecedented recognition for culture and for reaffirming its commitment to harnessing knowledge and innovation for global peace and development at the UN Summit for the Future. Similarly, UNESCO's action on ethical AI implementation, marine biodiversity, conservation, and climate resilience are indeed timely. Further, UNESCO's action in cultural heritage protection, such as Revive the Spirit of Mosul, has demonstrated the organization's leadership in post-conflict reconstruction of historical and cultural sites. Amid global complexities, Sri Lanka supports UNESCO's efforts in collaboration, resilience, scientific cooperation, and inclusive policy making for peace and sustainable development. Ladies and gentlemen, in Sri Lanka, the ancient kingdoms of Anuradhapura and Polonnaruwa stand as remarkable testaments to refined aesthetics and cultural development of a highly advanced hydraulic civilization. These unique heritage sites located in the Cultural Triangle and conserved with the support of UNESCO since the 1980s also symbolize Sri Lanka's long-standing partnership with the organization. I wish to recall at this point the important contribution of Sri Lankan archaeologists and conservationists themselves to UNESCO's body of work on heritage conservation and management from the 1980s within the World Heritage Committee, ICOMOS, and ICROM. Noteworthy is the outstanding contribution of the late Dr. Roland Silva, President of ICOMOS International from 1990 to 1999, and subsequently its President Emeritus, whose vision helped shape modern heritage conservation. I would be remiss in my duty if I do not place on record our gratitude for the enormous contribution of the former Directors General of UNESCO, particularly the late Amadou Mahathir Mbow and the late Federico Meyer, towards the preservation of the historic sites of the Cultural Triangle, including Anuradhapura in the 1980s and the 1990s. I extend Sri Lanka's deep condolences on the passing of these two visionary statesmen last year. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we deliberate on the Anuradhapura Heritage Project, I want to give you a glimpse of the uniqueness and spirit of Anuradhapura. My earliest memories of Anuradhapura was as a child. Like most families in Sri Lanka, a trip to Anuradhapura was part of what we did during school holidays. I remember traveling to Anuradhapura in the early 1980s. The ride from Colombo took about 8 hours during that time, maybe even longer. Anuradhapura was not a bustling city then. I remember staying in my uncle's hospital quarters where he worked as a doctor, and I remember the excitement as a child of staying at one of the two rest houses, one adjoining the majestic Nuwara and the other the beautiful Thisavava, two of the oldest hotels in Anuradhapura. I remember going at dusk to worship at Ruwanveli Saya, to the sacred Bo tree, to the Samadhi Buddha statue. Even as a child, I felt the magic of Anuradhapura, the sense of awe at the creativity and skills of our ancestors. As a young adult, I often went to Anuradhapura on work. This was in the 1990s, and Anuradhapura was beginning to change. The war that ravaged our country during that time had a huge impact on Anuradhapura. It became a transit point between the north and south for the military. The sleepy district hospital that I remembered as a child expanded to accommodate military casualties and exigencies of the war. The town started changing from a somewhat laid-back town to a bustling urban city. During that time, Anuradhapura also became the target of terrorist attacks. Even sacred sites was not spared. The real tragedy of the war, however, was the emergence of border villages. Villages situated close to the war zone. Life in border villages was insecure, to say the least. In the district of Anuradhapura, these villages were mostly organized around Anuradhapura's vast irrigation network. People living in border villages usually spent the nights hiding in forests to avoid attacks. Of course, hiding in forests meant that you also had to protect yourself from wild elephants and other wildlife. Life in the border villages was precarity experienced in the most extreme sense. Today, Anuradhapura has grown beyond recognition. In the classical sociological sense, Anuradhapura is a unique mix of the sacred, activities belonging to the spiritual realm, and the profane, relating to the everyday and material realm. The farmer toiling in his rice fields or vegetable plot will stumble upon archaeological artifacts dating back several centuries. The precious water irrigating the fields is stored and distributed through an amazing irrigation system that deserves a special place in our conservation efforts and dates back thousands of years. Managing the irrigation system also requires archaeological skills. Water plays a special role in Anuradhapura, perhaps in Sri Lanka as a whole. whether for irrigation, building moats for protection, for everyday life, or as part of the landscape. The archaeological discoveries of highly decorative ponds that were built not just for beauty, but for water sports underscores this close connection that people have with water and the attention that was paid to conserving, storing, and managing water. The bird life, the different flowers, unique to the brush and dryness of the area, the magic of flying fish in the moonlight, seeing the great stupas in the moonlight, the lakes shimmering with their glow. There is something magical about Anuradhapura that I have not experienced anywhere else. With daily pilgrims and tourists, Anuradhapura is also a vital agricultural hub, blending sacred sites with schools, hospitals, and markets. Its conservation is complex, yet essential. Anuradhapura's heritage is worth preserving not just for Sri Lanka, but for its universal value, as has been acknowledged by UNESCO. Current excavations suggest that Anuradhapura's earliest settlements date back as early as 900 BCE. There is evidence of the existence of a writing system, trade, the emergence of Buddhist monastic settlements, technological advances, system of social stratification, proving the existence of a sophisticated and cosmopolitan city. Central to this is city planning that marks Anuradhapura. The inner citadel, containing the essential components of power and authority, such as the royal palace, and services such as hospitals, cemeteries, and trade, leisure, and ritual sites. Outside by the city, by the vast reservoirs, were the agricultural settlements where the normal citizen dwelled. Between the city and agricultural settlements were Buddhist monasteries, where rather than the ritual aspects of religion, what was stressed was study and meditation. This suggests the existence of a very advanced and sophisticated culture. This sophistication is also evident in the attention to beauty, whether it is the magnificent reservoirs, majestic stupas, serene Buddha statues, beautifully crafted water facilities for leisure, intricately carved toilet pots, or the thoughtfully placed pillar or window framing a particularly enchanting view. Anuradhapura has always been a site of worship for Buddhists, not just from Sri Lanka, but all over the world. After all, a sapling of the sacred Bo tree, under which the Lord Buddha gained enlightenment, is one of the main pilgrimage sites in Anuradhapura. Hundreds of thousands of pilgrims visit Anuradhapura on religious holidays, and the needs of these pilgrims also need to be considered. These include accommodation, food, sanitation, etc. Anuradhapura has the potential to be a major tourist site, one that builds on its heritage value, attracting a particular type of tourist. It has the potential to be a major international site on education, research, and dissemination of archaeology, history, irrigation, and art. It is of value as a site of Buddhist learning, and this can also be expanded to the world. We are also very conscious that heritage, history, and archaeology has been weaponized in the past by racist groups to divide our people and for narrow political gain. My government rejects racism and is striving to acknowledge and celebrate the diversity of traditions and cultures in Sri Lanka and to bring people together. We firmly believe that history and archaeology can play a significant role in educating people about our common heritage and also how different traditions and histories have enriched each other. But all of this means managing different and perhaps even competing or conflicting interests. The lives of the present inhabitants of the city, its heritage and archaeological value, the needs of local and international tourists may not always be aligned. This is the challenge before us. Balancing the needs of Anuradhapura's inhabitants, heritage, and tourism is a challenge, but its importance is undeniable. Our proposal goes beyond Sri Lanka. It is about preserving global heritage. This requires sustained expertise, resources, and collaboration, making this conference crucial in uniting key contributors. Our government plans to develop 3 cities as heritage cities in Sri Lanka: Anuradhapura, Jaffna, and Kandy. We selected these cities for the moment because each of these cities represents what we think is a unique characteristic spirit that represents some aspect of the Sri Lankan identity, whether it is the resilience of Jaffna, the multiculturalism of Trincomalee, or the spirituality of Anuradhapura, multiculturalism of Kandy, I beg your pardon. These cities encapsulate some of the best of Sri Lanka that we want to protect and share with the rest of the world. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, amid climate change, socio-economic inequalities, and geopolitical challenges, UNESCO's leadership in global collaboration, technical expertise, and heritage conservation remains vital. Sri Lanka is dedicated to partnering with UNESCO to develop adaptive strategies, blend innovation with tradition, and ensure resilient, future-focused heritage policies. As a member of the Executive Board, Sri Lanka is actively engaged in contributing towards shaping UNESCO's policies, strengthening international cooperation, and ensuring that the organization's programs align with its constitutional mission. Sri Lanka champions intercultural dialogue, peace, and heritage preservation. Leading UNESCO's decision on the International Day of Vesak's annual commemoration reaffirmed our commitment to unity in diversity on the global stage. In keeping with this commitment, I am pleased to announce that Sri Lanka will today formally hand over the instrument of accession of the 2005 UNESCO Convention on the Protection and Promotion of the Diversity of Cultural Expressions. This important step underscores Sri Lanka's dedication and commitment to safeguarding cultural diversity, promoting artistic freedom and expression, and ensuring that all cultures have equal opportunity to flourish in an interconnected world. Before I conclude, allow me to take this opportunity to extend my deep appreciation once again to the Director General and to the Member States of UNESCO, the President of the General Conference, the Chairperson of the Executive Board, and the Assistant Directors General and the Secretariat for their steadfast support, cooperation, and collaboration in supporting Sri Lanka's continued efforts in delivering on the dynamic mandate of UNESCO, and for their able stewardship of UNESCO's program of work. I would also like to thank our Ambassador to France and Permanent Delegate to UNESCO, Manisha Gunasekara, for her tireless efforts on behalf of Sri Lanka, and particularly the Anuradhapura Heritage Project. Today's initiative thrives on the dedication of stakeholders, experts, and international donors. I thank all who contributed to the success of this conference and look forward to its outcomes and Sri Lanka's continued collaboration with UNESCO. Let us aspire not only to preserve our shared heritage, but to ensure that it continues to inspire, educate, and unite generations to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for this remark, in particular for sharing so well the values and the significance of Anuradhapura. I now have the pleasure and the honor to welcome the Honorable Dr. Hiniduma Sunil Senevi, Minister of Buddha Sasana, Religious and Cultural Affairs of Sri Lanka, to deliver the keynote address of this conference. Your Excellency.
A very good morning to all of you. Venerable Mahasangha, religious dignitaries, Madam Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, Madam Director General, Madam President of the General Conference, Madam Chairperson of the Executive Board, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Sri Lankan delegation, headed by Honorable Prime Minister, it is with immense pleasure that I address this international expert conference on integrated and sustainable approach to safeguarding the sacred city of Anuradhapura in Sri Lanka. a property inscribed on UNESCO's World Heritage List due to its outstanding universal value to the humanity. Located within the north-central dry zone of Sri Lanka, Anuradhapura was the first principal political center of Sri Lanka, evolved from an Iron Age settlement in 1000 BCE to a well-organized metropolis by the 3rd century BCE. The excavation within the citadel probed Anuradhapura's earlier settlement levels reaching nearly 10 meters below the present ground surface. Radiocarbon dating confirmed human occupation with settlements covering 14 to 26 hectares by the 700 BCE. The settlement had expanded to over 50 hectares, and by 500 BCE, it encompassed approximately 72 hectares. By 3rd century BCE, the settlement reached its peak, spanning over 100 hectares, making it the largest fortified citadel south of Ujjain in North India. Patronized by political authority, the formation of the Buddhist monastic order at Anuradhapura during the 3rd century BCE constituted a major factor in ancient Sri Lanka's social organization. During the latter part of the 1st millennium BCE, Anuradhapura quickly became the center of both political power and Theravada Buddhism. The citadel forming the center of Anuradhapura was defended by a wall and a moat with city gates facing cardinal direction, while the roads connected the entrances and extended beyond. The royal palace, including the household, were located within the walled citadel. The area outside the walled citadel was zoned according to its functions, such as the royal parks and settlements of nobles and traders, clergy, and communities of various occupational castes or guilds that supported the functioning of the city. The citadel also consisted of traders' shops, hospitals, mortuaries, and maternity homes, and especially cemeteries. Several sacred relics of the Lord Buddha were also brought to Anuradhapura from the mainland India, resulting in Buddhism becoming a form of popular religion. A sapling of the sacred Bodhi tree, under which the Lord Buddha attained spiritual enlightenment and supreme wisdom, was also brought and planted in Anuradhapura as an associate relic of the Lord Buddha. The sacred Bodhi tree is still living at Anuradhapura, and it is being still venerated by the devotees. The sacred Bodhi tree at Anuradhapura is also considered to the world's oldest recording living historical tree. The human-made colossal reservoirs surrounding the citadel to irrigate the paddy fields within the suburbs date from the 4th century BC. Encircling the citadel was the Mahaviharas, great monasteries, and numbering 5. Each of the monasteries had extensive layouts, and the largest at about 200 hectares in extent, which is larger than the citadel. Located at the center of each of the monasteries was a colossal stupa as a distinct architectural focal point. The highest reaching 120 meters, these stupas dominate not only the respective monastery, but the entire skyline of Anuradhapura. In addition to serving as spiritual centers, these monasteries were great center of learning, attracting scholars from countries as far as China. Located beyond the reservoirs and the agricultural settlements are another series of monasteries with a focus on meditation. The great stupas and storied monastic chapter houses were the skyscrapers of metropolis of Anuradhapura, while the remains of monastic edifices at Anuradhapura most eloquently express the highest achievements of classical architecture during this period. The extant sculptural remains at Anuradhapura indicate high quality of craftsmanship. The sacred city of Anuradhapura is a unique representation which demonstrates the development in town planning, architecture, and sculpture, and has also exerted great influence on the development and agriculture in Southeast Asian countries such as Thailand and Myanmar. Anuradhapura is also an exceptional testimony of a world civilization with brilliant organizational capabilities and technical knowledge of a civilization as reflected through the construction of massive stupas, which is unparalleled in the ancient world. The site has been a renowned place of pilgrimage for the Buddhists in Sri Lanka and worldwide. Due to such outstanding universal values, Anuradhapura was inscribed on UNESCO World Heritage List in 1982. However, due to several issues which will be presented by other members of our delegation at Anuradhapura, which could impact the outstanding universal value, and hence we argue the international community to join hands with us in safeguarding this heritage of humanity for the future generation while allowing the benefits of heritage prolongated down to the local community. In this respect, as mentioned by Honorable Prime Minister, the government of Sri Lanka is focusing to develop Anuradhapura, allowing with Kandy and Jaffna cities to build specific images to project these historic cities. Therefore, this project perfectly aligns with the Sri Lankan government's vision. This includes not only the presentation of heritage, but to present the sites to the visitors and pilgrims in a historic setting while allowing developing and landscaping new public spaces, including the parks, roundabouts for meaningful visual impact. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, for your excellent keynote address. So, Your Excellencies, this concludes, I'll say, the opening of this conference on the sacred city of Anuradhapura.